It's Thanksgiving week, which means Gary Lloyd and myself, Kyle Parmley, here on the Under the Lights High School Football Podcast, are here to deliver all of our Thanksgiving food takes because we know that's what you came here for. So, Gary, let's go ahead and get it out of the way. What is your most unpopular, worst Thanksgiving food take that you have?
If it was that great, we would have it more than one time a year. Give me fried chicken on Thanksgiving.
Turkey done well is fantastic. Come on.
I I I'm good with the turkey. The sides, I'm not. I'm kind of out on most all of the sides at Thanksgiving. Just give me some fried chicken. Give me some meat. Let's smoke something. Let's grill something. Like I can do without most of the things that end up all mushed together on a Dixie plate.
Well, if the weather's nice on Thursday, you can get that grill out and get to work on your backyard that is hopefully put together by SYNLawn, our friends who have been the presenting sponsor of the Under the Lights podcast all season long. We can't thank them enough for coming on board, helping us out with everything we've been doing. So, listen, SYNLawn is your go-to for all things artificial turf. You can upgrade your backyard, create a pet-friendly space, enhance your golf game with a custom putting green. SYNLawn's got the solution for you. With top-notch installations for both residential and commercial use and wholesale turf sales, SYNLawn Alabama is the premier choice for artificial turf in this state. You can check out their showroom at 2018 Old Montgomery Highway or give them a call at 205-590-9549. SYNLawn Artificial Turf never looked more natural. So on that note, Gary, deviled eggs, where do we stand?
I'm out.
All right, deviled eggs are also fantastic. So couple strikes against you already, but we won't hold it against you because let's flip this around. So, Gary, you're a stats guy. You love stats. I know this. So let me deliver you a stat with a little bit of a stipulation.
Okay.
We have been covering high school football here at Starnes Media Under the Lights since 2016. That was our first season here at Starnes. This will only be the second time in that span that we will not have a team playing in the Super 7 after Hoover and Spain Park fell on last Friday night. We're done. All of our football teams have bowed out of the playoffs.
I am not thankful for that.
So here's the qualifier. We will have a flag football team in the Super 7.
Yeah.
Because as we record this on Tuesday, Spain Park and Hewitt Trustful's flag football teams, girls flag football. This is the first year that it is a fully sanctioned AHSAA sport. Spain Park and Hewitt Trustful are playing in the semifinals on Wednesday night. I'm going to be out there. Can't wait. The winner of that is going to the Super 7. So we will have some Starnes Media Under the Lights representation at the Super 7. It just won't be in the form of a traditional football team. And that's the only other time that happened for us was 2019. So it's kind of a testament to how good the football is in our little area of the state.
Yeah, it's been really, really good. I was trying to remember the year. I was going back and forth in my mind between 2018 or 2019. I knew it had to be one of those. But yeah, that'll be a lot of fun for you out at Spain Park. I thought about making the trip, but I'm not quite sure I'm going to be able to make it work this week. But you never know. Might show up at the Super 7 regardless, and cover some stuff out there at Protective.
Yeah, I'll be out there as well, even though we may not have much in the way of the 1 through 7A championship games. We'll still be out there having a good time. So that's a good segue. Let's let you guys know. Here's what we got going on. This week's episode, we're going to kind of wrap up the season for Hoover and Spain Park. Next week, we're going to wrap up the season for all of our teams. We're kind of just going to give a little rundown of what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and kind of set the stage for what's to come in 2025 for all of our teams. And then at some point after that, following the Super 7, we will announce our All-South Metro teams on here. So get ready for that. I've been getting messages and emails the last several days from coaches saying, hey, make sure this guy gets on there. We got to get this guy on there. So we look forward to releasing those teams or the All-South Metro team on here to you guys at some point. So get ready for all that. But all right, Gary, last Friday night, we had a couple games. they didn't go the way that the teams we cover hoped they would. But we'll start out at the game in Phoenix City. I went down to Phoenix City for the second week in a row and watched Central advance to the state championship with a 17-7 win over Hoover. Not too often in a high school game that the scoring is completely done by midway through the second quarter, but that's what we had in this one. I mean, both teams had successful opening drives, so 7-7 late in the first quarter, and then Central scores twice more. Hoover's offense really just sputtered the rest of the night. Hoover's defense actually played really well in this ball game. They held Central under 300 yards, and this to me was a field position game. I felt like most of the night I was standing on Hoover's side of the field. I mean, Hoover was backed up in their own territory, couldn't really dig their way out, and they're punting the ball to Central, who's getting the ball around midfield, and they just never could really flip the field. They had one opportunity, and then they went for it on fourth down, close to the red zone, and couldn't convert. So kind of a bummer the way the season ended for Hoover, that they couldn't get more going on offense that night, but Central's still a really good team. We saw that 2 weeks ago with Vestavia down there. And then they did the same thing to Hoover last Friday.
Yeah, like you said, field position game, and 3 and outs, and 3 costly interceptions. I think is that what the final number was? 3 picks for Hoover. Yep. So when you're backed up and you can't move the ball, and then you're turning the ball over in a field position game like that, that's just impossible to overcome against an opponent like Central Phoenix City. But massive credit to Hoover's defense. I mean, holding an electric Central team to just 17 points, given what you just mentioned, the field position battle. It seemed like Central was getting the ball really where they wanted to get the ball, and that Hoover defense stood tall a lot in that game, and really gave themselves a chance to stay in the game late and maybe have a chance. But like you said, offense just kind of sputtered and couldn't quite do what they needed to do, and turned it over a bit too much. So really tough way to go out, but there's nothing really to hang your head about when you lose to Central Phoenix City at Waffle House Stadium.
Waffle House Stadium, indeed. And you mentioned, like, the numbers for quarterback Mac Beeson, they didn't look good. He threw for 120 yards, threw 3 interceptions. But you could tell by the second half, he was hobbled. He wasn't at 100%. And Jonah Winston, their dynamic playmaker, he'd missed the last game, came back. You could tell he was not 100% either. But he really gutted it out. I think he had, close to 100 all-purpose yards. So he really he gave it all he had. And so it was impressive to see that team continue to fight, even though things last Friday were not going in their favor. But I think that's a great encapsulation of what Hoover football was this year. I mean, it was just such a roller coaster of a season, and it could have very easily gone downhill at various points. And these guys just never wilted, even in the games when they just played like crap. I mean, and they would come back. They got better. By the end of the regular season, they were playing really well, and carried that over into the playoffs. And getting back to the semifinals is kind of a sensitive topic for Hoover fans, because that's where they've been stonewalled so many times in the last 7 or 8 years. But getting to that point this year, I think, is a pretty worthy accomplishment for that team. Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. And, you've kind of mentioned it, but, we talked about this last week with Jeff Allison. I think I said it, that, in years past, in decades past, you thought of Hoover in such a slick program kind of way. You had 2-a-days with Russ Probst. You had Coach Niblett, and, Hoover was just a slick program. And this year might have been maybe the grittiest Hoover team that I've seen in years, where, like you mentioned, they're dealing with some injury stuff at times, obviously the stuff in the off season, and then just the way they battled hard and battled a lot in a lot of these games. And I think some of that might be why, athletic director Harvey Lamy over there put out that kind of that statement or whatever last night. It's on this graphic about, thanking the players, thanking the coaches for the season, and it's kind of a Thanksgiving post. It's kind of putting a bow on the season for them and how proud he is as an athletic director, and he's probably speaking for the community, for the entire administration at Hoover City Schools. But he talks a lot about that, about how this team never quit and how they were an inspiration and overcame adversity and all those things. But I don't know. I think that's I think he encapsulated it well, and it was well said. And when I saw the graphic at first, I thought it might have been about something else, but it's a well taken post. And those kids have nothing to hang their head about. They had a really great season.
Yeah, and I have no insight one way or the other. But I mean, Harley Lamey said all along that they would kind of reevaluate things at the end of the season in terms of what they're going to do with the permanent head coaching position. But I can guarantee you one thing: what Chip English did this year with that program did not make Lamey's job any easier. Like it wasn't just a situation where it's like, yeah, we need to go in a different direction. I mean, it's definitely going to be some complicated decision-making processes going on in terms of what Hoover decides to do with their next head coach.
Yeah, definitely don't envy that, because yeah, you want to get the best guy for the job. It's Hoover. Like you don't just hire just anybody. They're going to do their due diligence, I'm sure. But you got to feel like Chip English has kind of a resume to bring to the interview table that says, look, I did this with these guys this year at this program. So uh, I think he's got a leg up on anybody if it was me. But I'm just someone talking about it. I'm not in the AD chair. So don't envy Harvey's job here, but I'm sure Hoover will do what's best for their program, whether it be Coach English or someone else. We'll see.
All right, well let's take a dive into the other Hoover City school that was playing in the playoffs. Spain Park went all the way down to Saraland for the 6A quarterfinals, and Saraland jumped on them early and ran away with a 45-19 win. Quarterback KJ Lacey, still very, very good at Saraland. He had a ton of yards, and Spain Park got a couple of opportunities to maybe sneak back into the game, but Saraland just too strong, and you kind of had an inkling that might happen. This Saraland team, I don't know who's going to stop them, to be honest with you. Maybe a team on the other half of that bracket, but it's this Spain Park team, I think, was a little bit better than a quarterfinal team. They just kind of ran into the wrong team in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this was the game that if you're Spain Park's defense, you needed your A plus game. And I think this Spain Park defense maybe had some holes in it here late, especially in the playoffs. I saw it a little bit in that second half against Russell County, and Saraland just jumped on them early and jumped on them often. And I think Saraland maybe had approached like 400 total yards or so, close to that in the first half. KJ Lacey ends up with more than 400 yards of total offense himself. Um, you're not going to overcome that. So they needed their best defensive effort against the best offense they had faced all year, and the offense just got the better of it. They just proved they were a better team. I mean, I think it's pretty simple there. And to Spain Park's credit, they certainly didn't back down. I mean, why would you? How could you? Like Coach Tim Bakakis has said all year, they're going to keep swinging. That's one of his favorite phrases, and they did. They try to. I don't know how many onside kicks they ended up trying, but they were trying to get the ball because they knew they needed it, and to stay in this game. So I think it was just too much to overcome, and one, like you said, meeting in a quarterfinal. Spain Park is definitely a semifinal state championship contender kind of team. This is just the way the bracket fell with the Jags in the South, and you ran into an absolute gauntlet. But this team will be remembered, and especially the senior group, and certainly the playmakers who were underclassmen will be remembered as the team that truly turned around Spain Park football. I think that really started last year, I believe, down the stretch. So credit to some of those guys too, like a Jonathan Bibbs that was on that team last year. That's now at, I think, La Monroe. Certainly guys, the Shanks brothers, Brock Bradley, of course, CJ Cowley, Dakari Shanks, all these guys that are still a part of this team now. So I think the future just continues to be bright there, and they return a lot of guys next year. So this team only lost one game, and I would look for the Jags to probably be right back in this position next year with more experience and maybe a chance to take it a bit further.
Well, what I said in my weekend wrap up column on the Hoover Sun website this week, uh, obviously Sean Rainey had some really good years at Spain Park.
Hmm.
And by the time Tim Vakakis took over, Spain Park had kind of become a punching bag in a way. Like the good players were getting poached. There wasn't any momentum to be like, hey, this is where we want to be. It had become like the football program had started to feel like the little brother to the Hoover, to the Thompsons. I mean, that's where it was trending. Like they couldn't hang
Yeah.
on to their players. There was no energy. And so from the day that Vakakis took over, he began preaching this message of like, we're going to go on the offensive. Like we are the aggressor now. This is the place you want to be. And he mentions the weight room over and over and over and over and over again. I just love how like Spain Park has quickly turned back into the place you want to be. Like this is now a program that players, maybe not happy at the school that they're at. Like Spain Park has turned back into a place that, hey, they've got a great thing going over there. And that's just really impressive. And I think it speaks volumes. Like, yeah, they've got the offensive firepower that they showed this year, but just overall, like that, the way that Tim Vakakis is running that program is really impressive. And in the way it's set up is like that's sustainable. Like no matter what happens when
Okay.
your 3-star quarterback recruit ends up graduating or your all world running backs move on, like those are the kind of the things that they do are the kind of things that will lend itself to Spain Park continuing to be a really good program for years to come.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to look that Coach Vakakis, this was only his third year there, and you inherit a team that goes 3-7 in 2022, and then all of us last year were like, "Whoa, that Spain Park team's missing the playoffs," because we all kind of thought the way they were playing near the end of the year, this team's going to get in the 7A playoffs last year and make a lot of noise, maybe win a game or two. They finished 7-3, and you're like, okay, a 4-game turnaround from year one to year two is crazy in 7A Region 3. And then you drop down to 6A and you go 12-1, like, and then you're back next year with you know Brock Bradley will be back as a senior. CJ Cowley is going to be probably one of the most featured best players in the state at running back. That'll be his backfield next year, and a multitude of other guys. I don't think, kind of to your point, I don't think this Spain Park program is going anywhere, especially next year. I think they're going to be right back here with a chance to, maybe play a little bit of revenge and get to a semifinal, maybe get to a state championship, because I think, especially in 6A, like you have so many, like there's so much depth in 6A, right? But Spain Park was proving this last year in 7A, and you're gonna have so many guys graduate. Like you're gonna have a guy like Mason Mims graduate from Oxford. You're gonna have a guy like KJ Lacey graduate from Saraland. Brock Bradley's back. So I think this experience that they're gaining. It does remind me of Oxford. Those kids have played together for so long, and they've been through these fires, and they're still in the playoffs as of this recording. And I think, yes, a lot of that has to do with talent, but I think a lot of it has to do with that togetherness and experience as well. And this Spain Park program certainly has that now.
Absolutely. So there you have it. Hoover and Spain Park were the last two standing as far as under the lights teams go. Their seasons come to an end, but great years overall by both of them. So, all right, Class 7A is down to the state championship. Everybody else will be playing the semifinals this Friday night. Gary, all the 7A coaches did all this hand-wringing, all this mixing and matching, trying to figure some things out, all to end up at the same endpoint. Thompson and Central are playing in the state championship. They've done that a few times over the last several years, including last year when Central kind of dethroned Thompson's little mini dynasty run they had going. Central was able to lift the state championship trophy, so they're going for 2 in a row. Thompson would love nothing more than to kind of thwart those efforts. So we didn't talk about any of the Thompson game. You know, Thompson they handled Enterprise in the semis. Yeah. So early read on Thompson Central part whatever here in the state championship next week.
Just so much fun. I mean, yes, we get the same teams, but like Cam Coleman's not at Central, but you've got another receiver there who's all world, and just seeing that against this Thompson defense that Anquan Fagans, and who's he going to cover and what kind of plays is he going to make. Obviously the quarterbacks Andrew Alford and Trent Seaborn. Will Thompson be able to run the ball on that central front? Just a lot of questions, and just would we like to see some new blood in the 7A state championship as just people who enjoy the sport and love watching the sport? Sure. But it's not like you're not going to watch Thompson versus Central Phoenix City. Like, you can say all you want that you want other teams, and sure, I wouldn't mind a little bit of variety, but you can bet I'm going to be watching this game because these teams have proven that they are the two best, and at the end of the day, you want nothing more than to see the two best go at it for the blue map.
And in Class 6A, we're down to the semifinals. So this week, SYNLawn pays a visit to Pike Road. You figure SYNLawn heavy favorite there, and then a really fun game here in town. Oxford coming to Parker. This Parker team has been on fire. They're barely giving up anything, and this Oxford team a little bit shaky against Fort Payne. Fort Payne really gave them a test. Oxford only won 28-26, and I mean that game was down to the wire. So Oxford gonna need to bring their A game, and but if Parker keeps playing defense like they have been, nobody's beating them,
except maybe SYNLawn. But I don't know. Like, I struggle with these when we get to this. Like, it always feels like a coin flip, because both, you can make the case for any team when we get to this point. Yes, Oxford has to go on the road, and yes, they did just get by Fort Payne. But if you look at how that game went, we've talked a lot just because of region matchups about Oxford quarterback Mason Mims and Nick Richardson, that wide receiver who's going to play college baseball. But if you watched that game with Fort Payne, all 4 of those touchdowns went to Jalen Taylor. Now, he is an emerging star at Oxford, so he scores all 4 of those touchdowns. So, Oxford or Parker with their secondary, we've talked a lot about Naeem Alford. He's committed to Ohio State. Hopefully he doesn't flip to Auburn on signing day. That would be horrible. Just go to Ohio State.
That's happening, Gary. I'm sorry.
And you've got the other DB out there, Timothy Merritt, is going to Miami. So where do you want to throw the ball? So can Mason Mims have a pocket and have time? Can those guys get open, like you said, against a Parker defense that's just absolutely loaded with SEC and Big Ten and whatever conferences teams are even in anymore? I can't keep up anymore in college football, but they have college football players all over that defense. And then on the other side, Oxford's got a heck of a defender in Keenan Brett that's going to South Carolina. Can he be a disruptor? Like, can they put enough pressure on Parker's quarterback Dylan Reese? Can they get to him, force him to make some mistakes? Can you bottle up running back Terrence Gaines? I love all these matchups when we get to this time of year, because everybody's good. Everybody's collectively good. Everybody is individually good, and it's just best on best. And, like I said about Thompson Central, you can't ask for much more this time of year.
Absolutely. One other thing, let's give a quick rundown. I want to give you just kind of a team to watch in each of the remaining classifications. In 1A, Elba, still alive. Elba has got Alvin Henderson at running back. He's committed to Auburn. He's the guy that ran for like 10 touchdowns when they lost earlier this year. So they're still alive in the semis. In 2A, Tuscaloosa Academy, in their third year of playing AHSAA ball, they are in the semifinals, looking to get to the state championship for the first time as a AHSAA program. In 3A, Fife, who wins the state championship every single year in 2A, they move up to 3A this year, and Piedmont stays undefeated, gets Fife in the third round. So Piedmont's still hanging around in 3A. In 4A, Gary's favorite team, Jackson, is just rolling right through the playoffs, and I look for that to not change. And then in 5A, we're going to be there on Friday night. Are they going to shut down 411? Is that how this works? Moody hosting Leeds in what should be a really, really fun 5A semifinal.
Yeah, if they do shut down or if they shut down 411, I'm coming to your house, and you can carpool me and the rest of the assembled media that will clog the Bill Morris Stadium sidelines, because it is going to be a spectacle. Can't wait for that. Man, that's just so cool, where you get to this, that rivalry has been talked about for a good while. Everybody knows about the Battle of the Bridge, and we don't go across the, like Jake Gaines, the Moody head coach, told me earlier this year. He was like, I only cross that bridge like for Chick-fil-A because that's the Lord's chicken. And I thought that was a great line. And they only go over there if they need to go to Walmart, basically. And I've heard debates. Is the Lowe's over there? Is that Moody? Is that Leeds? It's Leeds, but it falls close. But it's crazy that you get, we've talked about Moody trying to overcome Leeds the last 2 years. They played 2 games that were, I think the point differential was 4 points total in 2022 and 23. And then this year, Moody, breaks through, gets that win at home by a couple touchdowns, and now we get that rematch. And I'm excited to see it. What do you think about it? I have a lean, but what do you kind of think about this game as it approaches?
I mean, I think Moody is the better team.
Hmm?
And they've lived with that expectation on their shoulder all year, and they challenged themselves at the start of the year, played 2 really good, high quality teams, and got beat. And ever since then, they hadn't played a close game outside of Helena, right? So I think this Moody team is primed to kind of break through to that state championship game. And they're playing a Leeds team that, Leeds has some injury concerns after last week. I'm not sure where they stand with all that, but this is like, to me, you talk about when you get into like college football matchups, you call it like helmet games. Like, these are the cool helmet games. Like, to me, these are the cool, like the coach games. Like,
Yeah.
having like Jerry Hood on one sideline and Jake Gaines on the other sideline going at it. That's just a lot of fun to me. And I'm ready to see them strap it up and see what they've got, because that's just a matchup, And like you said, I mean, these communities literally couldn't be closer to each other. There's a line in the middle there. So
Oh yeah.
it's gonna be a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I mean, they call it the Battle of the Bridge, but Coach Gaines will just call it the overpass. That's a thing. He just calls it the overpass. But I do want to throw a stat at you. Obviously Moody and Leeds, same region, they have some common opponents. And I was looking at how they fared against these common opponents. So 5 common opponents, and they go combined 10-0. They won the games. In those 5 games, Leeds averaged 46.2 points. Moody averaged 48. So call it a wash. Leeds defense gave up an average of 21.4 points in those 5 games. Moody gave up 5.6 on average. I think that's your difference. I think this Moody defense is really really good. And I think they'll throw some things at Leeds and quarterback Connor Nelson that limits them enough to allow their the Moody offense to really work against the Leeds defense that has shown some vulnerability at times. So if I'm giving a prediction, I'm with you. I think this is, you know, you've got it at home, and I think numbers like that are in your favor. So I think we're going to end up seeing Moody in the Class 5A state championship game.
So if I'm not mistaken, this is Moody's first time in the quarterfinals as a program. I mean,
Semifinals.
in the semifinals as a program.
That's right. School
Wow.
since 1978, I think is the year. But yeah, first time. So every single thing that they do from last week forward is brand new.
And obviously, Leeds is a program that has had plenty of success over the years. Keith Etheridge, the current coach at Auburn High School, he won 4 state titles while he was at Leeds. I remember seeing a couple of those teams, and buddy, they were good. And
Yeah.
so, you know, ever since
Yeah.
Etheridge left, there were a few down years in between before Jerry Hood got him back in the playoffs and has got that thing rolling. So
Yeah. A
I'm
lot
ready,
of fun
man.
stuff like that because a lot of those teams you would have seen. I mean, like Daryl Marshall was on some of those Leeds teams, right?
Yep, he was the quarterback.
You know where he's a coach now?
Is he a Moody?
He's a Moody High School coach.
Yep, I think it was what, TD Marshall and Trey Nation. Was that the
Yeah.
QB running back combo back in the day?
Yes, sir.
Man, that was a good bunch. Um,
Yeah. So
either
that's
way,
gonna be, yeah,
the winner gets the winner between Catholic Montgomery and Viger, which that ought to be a
dude.
blast on the other side.
Dude, that game's gonna be. I mean, I've talked earlier this year with Kirk Johnson, the head coach at Catholic Montgomery, and I don't know if you've ever gotten to talk to him, but he is a 10 out of 10 time. He is so much fun, and his team is really really good. You know, they're undefeated. Viger's only loss was a 10-9 loss to Juan Johnson's Baker team playing up against 7A. So both of these teams have elite defenses. Let me look because let's see. Montgomery Catholic winning games on average 45-6. Viger winning on average 37 to basically 5. So they both just kill people, and their defenses are great. They have, let's see, Catholic has 6 shutouts, Viger 5. Both have shut out 2 of their opponents each in these playoffs. Like, so you talk about knockdown, drag out, physical football. We're going to get that with Montgomery Catholic versus Viger Friday.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So
Yeah.
that sets the stage for this Friday night. Make sure you get all that Thanksgiving food, eat all of it Thursday, and then Friday for lunch. Then come join us at Moody on Friday night for some great football. And if you still have leftovers beyond that, you probably need to consider throwing them away. But Gary, it's here, semifinals, and then before you know it, I guess we'll be at the Super 7 in a little over a week's time.
We will be, and you know, I know we're wrapping this thing up, and you know, it's a little different with our teams out, but we've had segments, specific segments all year, and you drive those segments, but I'm going to drive this one if that's okay.
What you got?
All right, goal line stand.
Yeah.
So I have a goal line stand, and it's not a question to you, so I'm just going to ask you to sit back and listen. National Sports Media Association this week announced its Alabama Sports Writer of the Year finalists. They were Kevin Skarbinski from Birmingham Lead, Michael Casagrande, so Big House from AL.com, Nick Kelly from Tuscaloosa News, and Kyle Parmley from Starnes Media. So you didn't seem to know you were a finalist, nor did you know how you even earned the finalist distinction. But hey, your name's there, so who cares? But at the end of the day, whatever the criteria, you've earned it over the last decade. Consistency across covering all sports across the Birmingham area and beyond. Certainly your softball coverage across the entire state, Foley to Florence, basically everywhere in between. So it's been a decade, but I still think this is very much past due. I think you've come a long way from a story on Kayla Dillard exceeding 1,000 points, but at the same time, in a way, I think you haven't come a long way from that, and that sounds like a diss, but it's really not. What I mean is even at an intern age, you knew what you were doing. You were a natural. People call you softball commissioner. We say that jokingly, but you're a natural at this, and just huge congrats to you. And it's well earned and well deserved, and I'm proud of you.
Well, I'll make sure Katie cuts that part out of the podcast. So, no, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I don't have much insight into the process or the who and the how, but to be on a list of three guys like that is a pretty special honor, especially considering that I'm not an Auburn or Alabama beat writer. So, yeah, no, it means a lot. I hope it just speaks to the the level of importance that high school sports have, especially in the Birmingham area, but not just limited to that. Obviously, I'll span the state, north, south, east, and west when it comes to softball stuff. So, really appreciate that. Thankful for the honor. Just to be on that list is a pretty that's a pretty cool thing. I don't really feel like I belong there, but I'm very thankful that people think enough of me to put me there. And thanks to you for giving me that start all those years ago. It's funny, you actually mentioned that story I did on Kayla. I need to give her, she's on my list to give a call and just kind of touch base with her. That's a cool thing because I remember doing that story. And yep, it's been an interesting journey. But yeah, Dan Starnes and the team over here at Starnes Media to give me that opportunity to be the sports editor here almost 9 years ago now. So we're still going strong. So I appreciate it, Gary. It's been fun. We'll have some more fun along the way. I hope that bleeds into what we do. That's what,
Yeah.
I mean, this is fun. So with all that being said, we're in the semifinals this week of the high school football playoffs. Thank everyone for following along all year. It's been a great year. We hope that we've delivered some sort of insight, entertainment along the way, as we kind of, have a little fun talking some high school football. So like I said, we'll have some content coming out next week. We'll kind of wrap up the season for all of the Under the Lights teams and then the All Metro team beyond that. So still some cool stuff to be done, and we'll get after it. But otherwise, thanks for listening, Gary. I'll see you on the sideline on Friday night.
I'll see you there.